me see what else. That's pretty much it. Hill Grubber said that chart is trash. Well, okay, cool. It's trash to you because you don't believe, right? So if you can give me 3 precepts, all right, to prove that the chart is inaccurate, all right, then we'll throw it out, and it has to align with biblical prophecy. But if you can't give 3 precepts to back up the chart, because he don't know about this book right here that we just went into. He don't know about this, but let's watch him make a fool of himself, because he don't know real secular history. So this should be very interesting. Let's wait for him. This should be very interesting, because we gonna while we wait for him, we gonna cut him on this. Let me see if I got the video on here. All right. And I'm not paying him no attention, but rather I'm actually using him for edification purposes. All right. I'm using him for edification purposes. That's what I'm really doing. Because he don't want me to bring this video off of a true native and how the history was lied and what was actually told to our people. He don't want me to play that. He don't want me to play that. That's just one of many. I got several other videos. But if you want to be made an example today, be my guest. You can be made in an example today. Be my guest. The ball is in your court. What you want to do with it? I'll bring out several videos of your ancestors proving that they're the people on this chart. But go ahead. Make a believer out of me today if you want to. Go ahead and try me. Nobody said that see, again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Who said that she was Seminole? She will be of Gad right there. So-called North American Indians. Nobody said she was Seminole. Learn how to listen. Don't listen to respond. All right. That's the problem with majority of y'all. Y'all listen to rebuttal. You don't listen to actually comprehend of what's being said. Because see, like the brother mentioned earlier, right? You had the Tainos, which they don't know about. Okay. Boricua. Okay. And all of the above. All right. Well, you looking at Reuben, right? We're not looking at Reuben. We're looking at Gad. So pay attention. North American Indians. Nobody said anything about Reuben. We're talking about North American Indians. Gad, the tribe of Gad. That's what we're talking about. And we still waiting. Because he's still, come on, Hill Grabber. You said it was trash. I'm waiting for you. 3 precepts, my man. Because you came in here on one. You really about that life. Let's see. The scripture says a fool should be known in the midst of his talk. So we're going to see. A fool should be known in the midst of his talk. Let's see. We wait. The ball is in your court. And I got these videos on standby. So go ahead. Bring out whatever it is you're going to bring out. And we'll wait. And while we see his full ignorance, okay, we're going to get this right here.
This language of the Aztecs or the Mayans? Both of them. Both of them. Mm-hmm. You said it was connected to an old Hebrew. Ancient Paleo-Hebrew. Ancient. So does that mean that language that was indigenous to what Mexico and Central America is today was a Semitic language? Yeah. So what the schools teach you is an indoctrination. You get in.
Hey, Yaramia, you know what to do with him. You know what to do with him, bro. You got my permission. Go ahead.
So, for instance, our people get called Hispanic, right? So Hispanic, not knowing what that term means, we call each other Hispanics, but that was under the Spaniard captivity. When the Spaniards came in 1492 and, raped, robbed, and pillaged, the people of Mexico, um, how they knew you were under that captivity was by calling you an Hispanic, how you belonged to a family of a Spaniard that took you, you worked on their plantation, you were given.
Now, notice he said in 1492, when they came over, which proves what? When Christopher Columbus, whose real name is Cristobal Colon, he came over with a interpreter. Why did he need an interpreter come over with? Because where did he get the information that he knew that the northern tribes were in the Americas? Gee, I wonder where that came from. We'll show you in just a minute where that actually came from. Let's continue.
Their last name, like my last name, Ayala, that comes from whatever captivity my family got taken into. And maybe we have to work on fields, whether it was picking, tobacco or whatever that family had us doing. That's what we did. Now, Latino is different. Latino's under the Grecian captivity. Mm-hmm. That's if you were Latino, or how they differentiated the both of them is Latino actually meant that your bloodline dated back to a Grecian or a Greek. And people.
Now, let me explain to him, because people get confused when he meant by that. When he says that the Latino went back to the Grecian or Greek, it's because it started with them. But then what happened was, after the Greek Empire, the Latins took over, the Romans. OK, and then under that Latin captivity, OK, through Spain, when the Portuguese, when they came over, OK, that's where that captivity originated from. But you can trace it all the way back to the Grecians, the Greeks, because they were one and the same people. So when he says the Latino goes back to the Grecian captivity, that he's exactly right on that, because the Grecians and the Latins, they're the same people. All right, look it up. It's factual information.
That are from down south, Guatemala, El Salvador, just South America, they're not Latino. Their dads aren't Greek. We're still of this brown race. Like they call, black people or African Americans that are here now Africans, and they're not from Africa. They actually just got taken into captivity in Africa while fleeing Israel.
Is that so? But wait a minute. Where's the dude on the comment board who said so-called all black people is from Africa? Let me take that back again. So-called all black people is from Africa. What did he just say?
Race. Like they call, black people or African Americans that are here now Africans, and they're not from Africa. They actually just got taken into captivity in Africa while fleeing Israel. Okay, so once again, Zaza, I don't know if you came in late and you was not listening. When he said that the Latinos goes back to Grecian Greek, it's because the same people, the Portuguese, the Spaniards, when you do the tracing, it's the same people that go back to the Latins, which the Latins are Grecians, just to save you time. So when he says that the Latino goes back to the Grecian captivity, he is correct, because the Grecians are the same as the Latins, as the same as the Portuguese, the Spaniards. So it's one and the same people. All right. You can fact check that. That's secular history. Even Chat GPT tell you that. Anyway, let's continue. Africans are Hamites. They're from the tribe of Ham. So they're just a different people. And that's why people in Africa don't accept the blacks that are here, or the so-called blacks that are here in America, because they. Woo, now wait a minute. Wait just a minute. He said that the Hamites are so-called Africans. Where did we read earlier in this book? Let's see. We went to one of Noah's sons, Ham. We're going to read it one more time. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood, he became the progenitor of the dark races, and you see it right there,
Did he not just say the so-called African Americans are not Africans? Because you got people like Mormons, they say that so-called black people in America, they come from Ham. That's incorrect. They don't come from Ham. They're not African. They're Shemites. They're Shemites. They're from Judah. Take it back again.
They're from the tribe of Ham. So they're just a different people. And that's why people in Africa don't accept the blacks that are here, or the so-called blacks that are here in America, because they say those aren't our people.
Right.
You know? And, history, they won't teach you. In my era, they taught us a little bit of Aztecs and Mayas and Incas, just a little bit, but they never tell you how our people got here.
Yep.
They'll never tell you. We came from somewhere. They'll never tell you, how we read the stars. We used a thing called cenotes, which were these ponds, reflection ponds, to read the stars. Mm-hmm. While Columbus was looking up at the stars, trying to read them, trying to find these holy people that had a blessed land that was promised to them, full of.
Hey, you shouldn't even be talking right now, Hill. Where's your 3 precepts to prove that the chart is inaccurate? See, now you're projecting. We still waiting. So you can see your way out of here. We gave you an opportunity. You didn't take it because you know why? You full of shit because you don't know nothing. Salakia, let's get back to it. Take it back.
They'll never tell you, we came from somewhere. They'll never tell you, how we read the stars. We used a thing called cenotes, which were these ponds, reflection ponds, to read the stars. While Columbus was looking up at the stars, trying to read them, trying to find these holy people that had a blessed land that was promised.
Wait a minute. Trying to find these holy people that had a blessed land. I wonder where he got that. Oh, wait a minute. That's right. The lost tribes and the promised land. The origins of the American, you see it. Why did he say Columbus was trying to find a holy people? Why do you think he said that? Do you know they made a movie about it? It's called 1492 Quest of Paradise. Look it up. Hollywood movie. 1492 Quest of Paradise. Look it up. Let's continue.
Them full of riches and rich soil and all this and that. He was looking up at the stars, and he didn't know how to use geometry using the reflection ponds, and that's how we got here. Our real name is not Aztec; it's Issachar. That's our real name. They gave us the name Aztec
Issachar
because it means people of time, because we kept time in numbers, and so that's where that came from.
Now, to back up, let's get a precept. This is First Chronicles. Let me see. This is First Chronicles chapter 12, verse 32. And of the children of Issachar, so-called Mexicans today, which were men that had understanding of the times. In other words, they can be able to look up at the constellations, read the stars, and tell you if you was going to have a good crop or a bad crop. They used to be able to figure out the weather patterns, the zodiacs. To know what Israel ought to do, the heads of them were 200 and all their brethren were at their commandment. You don't think they know who we are as a people? See, somebody has the truth and somebody don't have the truth. But we don't know what we're talking about over here. We don't know how to put the pieces together. Once again, I have to keep bringing this to your attention. When the truth comes out, you easily get offended. You know why you get offended? Because everything you have been taught up until this point right now has been a lie. It's a lie. I have to say it again. Everything you have been taught up until this point right now has been a lie. And so what happens, like heel grabber that disagreed with the chart, when I gave him the opportunity, I said, produce your cause. Give me 3 precepts according to prophecy that would pretty much, for lack of better words, disown this chart, that would prove that this chart is false. Couldn't do it. All I'm saying is everything that I've given you, brothers and sisters here right now today, that's learning for the very first time, you're actually being fed 100% truth. Take everything with a grain of salt. Do your own research. Just do your own research. You, at the end of the day, have to be fully persuaded by your own mind. My job is not here to make you get something or to try to force you. No, I'm going to put it out there. Whether you receive it or you don't receive it, guess what? The blood is off my hands. It's up to you what you want to do with the information and how you want to feast upon it, how you're going to receive it. That's on you. My job is done. I've already planted the seed. It's up to you where you go forward from here on out to further your studies. Scripture says, let's get that. 2 Timothy 2:15. Let's read it. Study to show thyself approved unto the Most High, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Okay? It says 13 families keep coming up for, well, yeah, because the 13 families, they go back to your top bankers, which are Edomites. Okay? And it is those top bankers that are in control right now. They're not the true people that the Bible speaks of. They're the ones that are calling themselves the sons of Jacob, but they're really not. So when you talk about the R word, when you talk about the Bilderbergs, the DuPonts, the Gettysburgs, all of them, those families, okay, they're Edomites. And the prophecy says that the Esau, Edom, okay, before the Messiah returns, they'll be the ones ruling the planet Earth. And they are doing so right now before your very eyes. Okay. See, what you don't realize is how does anybody know how they got the land? Does anybody know? And what I mean by the land, does anybody know how they got the land of Jerusalem? Well, I'm going to show you. Because, see, we like to source out our information over here, and we like to actually read real historical, factual information, all right, that are in books. Now, I have here a book called Facts Are Facts, and this was written by a so-called JEW, whose name was Benjamin H. Friedman. And he's going to break down to you how they actually got the land in 1948. So we're going to go in this book. You can take a screenshot of that. All right. And he's going to give a speech. All right. And this guy has already passed away. But we're going to read the highlighted parts. This is speaking of the First World War I. And we're going to start right here where my thumb is. It says, while that was going on, the Zionists in Germany who represented I'm going to just say the Z word because I don't want to get the live cutting down. So Salakia. While that was going on, the Z in Germany was represented the Z from the Eastern Europe to show you that they were everywhere, controlling everything. Went to the British War Cabinet, and I'm going to be brief because it's a long story. But I have all the documents to prove any statement that I make, they said. Quote, look here. You can yet win this war. You don't have to give up. You don't have to accept the negotiated peace offered to you now by Germany. You can win this war if the United States will come in as your ally. The United States was not in the war at that time. We were fresh, we were young, we were rich, we were powerful. They told England, we will guarantee to bring the United States into the war as your ally to fight with you on your side if you will promise us Palestine after you win the war. In other words, they made this deal. Quote, we will get the United States into this war as your ally, and the price you must pay is Palestine after you have won the war and defeated Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Turkey. Now, England had as much right to promise Palestine to anybody as the United States would have to promise Japan to Ireland for any reason whatsoever. It's absolutely absurd that Great Britain, that never had any connection or any interest or any right in what is known as Palestine, should offer it as a coin of the realm to pay the Zionists for bringing the United States into the war. However, they did make that promise in October of 1916, and shortly after that, I don't know how many here remember it, the United States, which was almost totally pro-German, entered the war as Britain's ally. Bam. Now, what else do we need to get to back that up? Let me see if I got it. I know it's on the phone that I currently I'm live with, but let me see if I can pull this up. All right. And yes, Benjamin Franklin made a speech highlighting that as well. Who do you think he got it from? Yep. But let me see if I can find this. If I can't, it's all good. Bear with me. Let me just pull this up. I got to pause the live for about, just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, Salakia, I got it here. All right. Now, this right here, I don't know if y'all can see that, from Rainer's Historical Collectible Auctions. This is from the hcaauctions.com, which is a very highly recommended source, which they hide these things to archive secular history. This is the actual page report of, you see that name there, the ROTHSCHILDS, when they paid for Jerusalem. Now, in the report, it says 2 authentic and complete issues of the Niles Weekly Register, November 28 and 29, 1829, page 24. Disbound VG from the interior, a half a column report, Jerusalem. In small part, there is a report that I'll just say bankers have purchased Jerusalem. We see nothing improbable that in the pecuniary distress of the Sultan, he shall sell some part of the domains to preserve the rest, or that the bankers should purchase the ancient capital together. A second rebuilding of the temple is not among the most strange things expected in these strange times by some of the JEWs. Also, issue 2 has an interior story, the house of the bankers, addressing the financial business of that enterprise. Now, notice it said around the 1800s, because who was the Sultan that had ties in that land of Palestine? One of them, their name was it starts with an O. I forget his name, But when you had the Ottoman Empire going on, they were the first ones to grab up that land because the true Israelites were not in the land because they were scattered according to biblical prophecy. And so what the bankers did is they bought a piece of that land. And then following up the measures that led to World War One, you had a man by Albert Pike, look him up, okay, who was a warlock in himself. He's the one that wrote the blueprint on how they was going to take over the land. And they was going to do it, all right? They was going to do it by way of starting 3 major wars, okay? And don't worry about it, who made it, because it ain't for you, all right? So see you later. You've already been marked, all right? Since you want to scoff at secular history, all right? The Lord is going to laugh when your calamity come, pursuant to Proverbs, the 1st chapter. Anyway, so to get you up to speed, what happened was the bankers, they took over, and according to Albert Pike's book on how to take control of the whole world and also gain control of the land of Israel today, as we read in this book, Facts Are Facts, Benjamin H. Freeman clearly stated that if they was to bring the U.S. as an ally with Great Britain, Great Britain had to turn the deeds of the land over to the bankers. That's exactly what they did. However, it wasn't until 1948 when the deal was sealed, when they came out with the Belvedere Declaration. That began the process of how they not only took over our land, but they took over our heritage. Now you're understanding why the whole planet Earth is rising up against them, because number one, they know that they're not the true people. Matter of fact, it tells you when you look up, let me see if I can grab it here. Let me see what nations bombed. I'll just say Palestine. (1948). Yeah, here it is. The Arab nations attack. Okay. Tel Aviv, May 15, 1948, the same year the Balfour Declaration was signed. The battle for Palestine was won today with troops from Egypt, Transjordan, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, converging against the JEOO's defenders of the new state of Israel. See that? The new state of Israel. Because see, when you follow the prophecy never said anything about there being an actual new state of Israel. So what is that showing you? This showcasing that they made it up because they want part. They wanted part of that holy land. Now, why did they make it up? Now I have to show you this, and then I'm gonna shut it down after I show you this article. All right, or this interview, I should say. Where the hell is it? Let me see. Here it is. Now, this is an interview that can be researched. Master plan of you see it right there, by the bankers. It was done by Ron Patton, okay, who was the interviewer, and the guest was Marion Knox, who was an insider who worked with the bankers, and he's going to tell you why they wanted to take over the Holy Land. Hopefully y'all can see this. It says, can you be more specific how the role of the bankers play into all of this? This is Marion Knox's response. Well, most people who are into conspiracy know the bankers are the most powerful family in the world, but you really don't hear about the details relating to how they have set themselves up to be king of the JEWs and to usher in the Antichrist, which we know there's many Antichrists, not just one. It was the bankers who financially backed the nation of Israel so they could eventually set up the throne for the Antichrist in Jerusalem. And yet, during World War II, their money and resources were used to unalive many of the JEWs. But these were seen as expandable JEWs from the house of Jacob, which is incorrect because they're not of the house of Jacob. They are the house of Esau. Remember, these guys have the audacity to use the Bible as a blueprint to take over the world. Let me give you some background information. On one level, the bankers secretly call themselves the house of David from the tribe of Judah. Notice the word he uses is secretly. Why does it have to be a secret if you claiming to be the true people? Let's continue to read. The bankers translated from German, which really is going into that R word, to English means red shield. During biblical times, the Edomites' fortress was the Red Rocks of Petra, which is located in Jordan today. Back then, it was known as Mount Seir. Esau, the twin brother of Jacob, was described as red and hairy. So this information fits perfectly with what survivors have been telling me, that on a deeper level, the bankers are also claiming to be descendants of Esau and thus are really from the house or tribe of Esau. Now, remember I showed you the book, The Roman Empire, the Empire of the Edomite. Notice how we're going into secular history. This is how you study and align it with scripture. Now, if you own this book, you're going to come over here to page 9 and we're going to read this part. It says, unspeakable then must our astonishment be when we perceive that this grand secret, did we not just read in the interview, they kept it a secret, was certainly discovered and disclosed more than 1,200 years ago, that the true answer to the question, whence came the Romans, may have been returned and even registered in writing before the birth of Hamashiach, that the response proceeded neither from Greek nor Roman, but from the despised JEW, that it has been preserved to us in the Ish Targums, that it exists amidst the fables and impieties, the absurdities and the blasphemies of the Talmud, and that it may be comprehended in these 20 words. The Romans came from Esau, who is Edom, and Italy is the Idumea Rome, the Basra of the Hebrew prophets. These people later came back into power during the Renaissance era, and they took over Spain. They took over France. Matter of fact, I'm going to do you one better. Since you guys love my videos, we're going to go to this little video right here. Let's play this to show you how they conquer the world. Let's see if I can pull it up here.
Many are finding out Edomites, the descendants of Esau, actually made up the Roman Empire. As a matter of fact, the Jewish Encyclopedia also states that the name Edom is used by the Talmudists for the Roman Empire, and they applied to Rome every passage of the Bible referring to Edom or to Esau. Where is Edom today? Esau's land was called Edom. Edom is the country of Jordan and the place of Petra, the city in the mountain. Look at the architecture of the photo at Petra, which is Edom. Notice how it resembles Rome along with many of the structures all over the world. Sports stadiums resemble the Colosseum. Even modern-day sports are in fact derived from Rome. European systems of government are set up like the early Roman Empire, having both Senate and the Republic, local government, and other things as well. Esau's descendants are called Edomites. Later, they're called Idumeans. Idumea or Edom in Hebrew was the region south of Judea, originally inhabited by the reputed descendants of Jacob's brother Esau. Edom was periodically subjected to Judea under David and Solomon the Maccabees, homeland of the house of Herod. There were no natural boundaries between Idumea and Judea, so the borders were always in flux. According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, 1925 edition, in 163 BC, Judas Maccabeus conquered the Edomite territory for a time. They The Edomites were again subdued by John Hyrcanus about 125 BC, by whom they were forced to observe Israelite rites and laws of the Torah. They were then incorporated with the tribe of Judah, and their country was called by the Greeks and Romans Idumea. With Antipater the Idumean began the Idumean dynasty that ruled over Judea till its conquest by the Romans. From this time, the Idumeans ceased to be a separate people. Therefore, Edom later became known as the Roman Empire. With the sacking of Rome by the barbarians came the mingling or spoiling of Esau's seed, thus fulfilling the prophecy of Jeremiah 49:10.
But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not.
Also, in Daniel 2:43, the iron referring to the fourth kingdom of Rome, Esau's seed was mingled and spoiled with the seed of the children of the fallen angels.
Now, this is where he goes off. So what we're doing, we're just taking the meat from the bone, all right?
King art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
When scriptures say, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, they represents the seed of fallen angels, which are the barbarians.
And that's a lie, because there's no such thing as the seed of fallen angels, okay? Matter of fact, Apostle Paul tells you in 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, there's a difference between celestial. Let's get that real quick and we'll come back to the video. All right, that's why I said we got to take the meat from the bone, because he went off there. All right. And let's get it here. Right around 30. Let me see. Yep. First Corinthians 15:38, but the Most High giveth it a body as it had pleased him, and to every seed his own body. All flesh is not the same flesh. All right. All flesh is not the same flesh, but there is one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, another of fishes, and another of birds, which also proves there's no such thing as mermaids and all of that. Okay. All flesh is not the same. So you cannot intermix something into something. Like in certain fairy tales, you'll have like half a man and half a horse. There's no such thing. Verse 40, there are celestial bodies, which are angelic bodies, the angels, and bodies terrestrial, which is us, human beings on the earth. But the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another, meaning what? Angels cannot have intercourse. Their glory is different than the terrestrial body, whereas the terrestrial body, we have intercourse to reproduce here on the planet Earth. So the glory is different from one another. All right. So we just had to fact check that by going into the Bible. Let's go back to the video.
Known as the Huns were hungry.
The Roman Empire comes under siege by barbarians. Their principal weapon is fear, and they wield it with a fury. They are the Huns. The Huns will stamp their indelible mark on history, unleashing dark powers that will open the world to a new order. The 6th century Gothic historian Jordanes tells us the Huns descended from evil spirits amid the swamps.
And you see where they went off there? Because they're saying that the Huns descended from evil spirits, fallen angels. So this is why you have to be careful of who you listen to. Because the Bible speaks nothing about fallen angels. The true people that fell away from their grace, their power, were the Israelites, which started with Adam. Okay, Adam fell for being disobedient because he listened to Eve. And because he listened to Eve, what happened to him? 2nd Esdras, the 3rd chapter, it was appointed unto Adam to be unalived. And then that process of dying, that's why you're born into the world. You live a certain period of time and then you die. You go back to the grave. That's the true fallen estate. That's what it's talking about. But anyway, let's continue.
They seem to appear out of nowhere and take what they wanted and then ride off again. So they were like storms coming over the horizon. You couldn't predict the weather. You couldn't predict where the Huns would come or what they would do to you.
The Goths were Ukraine, Romania, Moldova, Belarus, Poland, and Scandinavia. The Saxons were Germany, the Dutch, the English, Northern Albania, Great Britain, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. The Franks were France. The Lombards were Italy. The Vandals were East Germany, which were known for their senseless destruction, which is where we get the term vandalism. Vandalism is the behavior attributed originally to the Vandals by the Romans in respect of culture, ruthless destruction or spoiling of anything beautiful or venerable. These kingdoms all branched off into other kingdoms such as Canada, America, Caucasus, Siberia, Central Asia, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Ireland, and maybe others. No, together these kingdoms all make up the rule of the entire world. Esau and his kingdoms, Edom, will be ruling at the end of the world, and Jacob will rule afterward in the millennium under the Messiah, Yeshua.
And he went off there again, obviously with the name. But notice he said those kingdoms all combined together make up what? The kingdom of Esau, which when you go to the kingdom of Esau, actually, you know what? I'll go to that picture because if I move myself from this video, I have to go back to it and I'm gonna lose out on the part. So let's just finish this. I'll take it back some.
Other kingdoms such as Canada, America, Caucasus, Siberia, Central Asia, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Ireland, and maybe others. No, together these kingdoms all make up the rule of the entire world. Esau and his kingdoms, Edom, will be ruling at the end of the world, and Jacob will rule afterward in the millennium under the Messiah, Yeshua.
Now, where did he get that from? Let's get it in scripture. He quoted 2nd Esdras, chapter 9, and no, not 9, but chapter 6, and I'm going to start at verse 7. This is the prophet Esdras, all right, speaking to the angel. Then answered I and said, what should be the parting asunder of the times, or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac and Jacob, and Esau were born of him. Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau, for Esau is the end of the world, meaning the end of this age, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So essentially, when you understand the volume of the book, what's being, or what I shall say, what we are bearing witness is the whole volume of the book is dealing with two nations of people going back and forth. That shows you that you other nations, you ain't got nothing to do with the scriptures, including you, Esau. But this is just for the story's sake. This is the way the scriptures were written. Two nations that were in thy womb, according to Genesis, the 25th chapter, they should be neck and neck. They're going to be fighting even up to this very modern day. because it's all about the birthright, which we're going to go back to that interview in just a second. But let's continue with the video.
Many Bible scholars teach that the Edomites no longer exist, but Scripture clearly shows them in the last days.
Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I loved Jacob and hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom saith, We are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, They shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever.
Many people use this scripture to claim that Edom was exterminated, but this is not what the passage implies. It states very clearly that the Most High hated Esau and laid his mountains and heritage to waste. But in the next verse, it states, Edom saith, We are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places.
Yep.
At the time of Malachi's prophecy, Edom was a wasteland between 445 and 432 BC. How do we know?
Note that down. He just clearly told you when this was quoted in Malachi, when Malachi wrote down that prophecy, the city of Petra, Edom, between 445 and 432 BC was laid waste. So that prophecy had to come to pass where they were going to come back into power. You see, let's continue.
This, the Most High said, I laid, past tense, his mountains and his heritage to waste. Edom's response was, We will return and build the desolate places. So if Edom was completely destroyed, how could they say that they'd return? And why would Scripture give reference to Edom still being around in the last days?
Right.
The Most High's response was, They shall build, but I will throw down. This is a future prophecy that Edom will return and rebuild, but the Most High will destroy his kingdom and his final judgment against Edom in the last days.
Yes, sir.
For Esau, Edom is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. 2 Esdras chapter 6 verse 9.
Which is what we quoted.
The prophecy in Isaiah.
And you see that destruction? That, my brothers and sisters, is what you call thermonuclear destruction. This is how this place is going to be taken out via World War III. Let me take that back because y'all don't know. See, this is what happens when you go to them churches. Them churches ain't teaching you a damn thing. They really not. Okay, that's why you here. You're learning the 100% truth. Let's take that back a little bit.
Why would Scripture give reference to Edom still being around in the last days? The Most High's response was, They shall build, but I will throw down. This is a future prophecy that Edom will return and rebuild, but the Most High will destroy his kingdom and his final judgment against Edom in the last days. For Esau, Edom is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. 2 Esdras chapter 6 verse 9, the Apocrypha. The prophecy in Isaiah chapter 63 verses 1 through 6 confirms that this is indeed what will happen.
Who is this that cometh from Edom, with dyed garments from Bozrah? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people was none with me. For I will tread them in my anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. And I looked, and there was none to help, and I wondered that there was none to uphold. Therefore mine own arm brought salvation unto me, and my fury it upheld me. And I will tread down the people in mine anger, and make them drunk in my fury, and I will bring down their strength to the earth.
When the Messiah returns, where does he go, and what does he do? He goes to every place where the descendants of Esau, the Edomites, have set up their kingdoms, and slaughters them for their perpetual violence against Jacob. He treads the winepress, and his wrath is accomplished. Further proof is in the book of Daniel, which states that in the future, the stone will...
There you go. That's all she wrote on that. So now let's finish this off. We got to get back to the interview, right? Got to get back to the interview. So we left off. I'm going to read the second paragraph again. Let me give you some background information. It says, on one level, the bankers secretly call themselves the House of David from the tribe of Judah. Now, the bankers translated, or the R word translated from the German to the English, means red shield. And during biblical times, the Edomites' fortress was the red rocks of Petra. Now you understand, and that's the reason why I had to show you that video. But it says, so this information fits perfectly. Or wait a minute, I missed a step. It says, during the biblical times, the Edomites' fortress was the red rocks of Petra. Esau, the twin brother of Jacob, was described as red and hairy. So this information fits perfectly with what survivors have been telling me, right? That on a deeper level, the bankers are also claiming to be the descendants of Esau and thus really are from the house or the tribe of Esau. It says what they are trying to do is to get the birthright back from the house of Jacob, who are the real Israelites. However, the book of Obadiah talks about the destruction of Edomites in the last days. You hear that vocab? The last days. We're in the last days now. So this leads us to another interesting point. In Revelation 3:9, it says, behold, I will make them the synagogue of Satan, which say they are the JEWs and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet. Then I asked the question, who is the synagogue of Satan? The only logical conclusion I can come up with is and you see it right there. All right. And so that's pretty much it. So this guy, Marion Knox, he was an insider because he actually worked with the bankers. And these are the things that he was told. So when he went out and did his own research and he started putting the pieces together and he put the information together, the only logical conclusion that he can come to was, wait a minute, they've stolen the heritage of calling themselves the house of Jacob. That's why they're over there in the Holy Land today calling themselves you know what. But behind closed doors, what they don't want everybody to know is that really they're the house of Esau. This is why they're calling themselves every other name under the heaven other than their true biblical nationality. They call themselves Americans, Canadians, Australians, Europeans, Italians. They are none of the above. They're Edomites. You see? So that's pretty much what it is. All right. So, did anybody have any questions? Anybody had any questions based upon that? I know it was a lot to take in, but you know, that's what we do over here. All right. That's how we get down. Man, that video is old, man. I got that video back in 2022. And I made sure when it came up on my For You page, I downloaded it and I saved it for my and I put it in my evidence folder. All right. So yeah, I'll have to, because I don't even think they'll allow, you know what, if I can find it on TikTok, because I got the person who actually originally posted, I'll repost it so that way you can get the full video. But other than that, yeah. Because I knew that video back, and that was back then when TikTok, it wasn't as strict as it is today, I should say. Because back then in 2022, you can post anything and you wouldn't get that video taken down. And the algorithm was crazy. You know how like right now, how we got about 34, 35 people. Back then, we used to have like 200 plus people on the live. But see, everything that I covered here today, they won't allow for me to have that sort of number count because it's too much truth coming out. So what they do with their lives is they block the algorithm so that our lives don't go to people. If they just go and click live and see who's live, they won't be able to see my live right now because my live has been hidden within the algorithm because of the information that I'm bringing out. You see? And for those who are used to watching me on here and haven't seen me in a long time, don't think that I don't put out videos like this. Go and check my YouTube. The only reason why I don't come on TikTok as much is because of what they're doing with this app. They're shadow banning the hell out of us. But if you've been following my YouTube, you'll never miss a video. I go live every week. I post videos every week on YouTube to stay up to date. So just because I don't go live on TikTok in months doesn't mean that I'm not doing the work. I'm on YouTube more than I'm actually on TikTok. And usually, like today, I have some time. When I have some time to be able to do lessons like this, for sure, I'm gonna put them up on TikTok. Well, you get this information by, watching the videos online. So let me show you what I mean by that. If you're on YouTube, all right, what you want to do, there's a channel on YouTube, screenshot that, GMS Elders the Milk. All right. GMS Elders the Milk. Screenshot that. And this will get you up to speed. Just go through the playlist. If you want to understand the prophecies, all right, America and Rome, how they connect. If you want to understand what the elites are planning to do in these last days, the tree of knowledge, circumcision, the Trinity doctrine, the true baptism, the actual word Lucifer, what it truly means, the truth about Islam and how it came to be in the world today, the true name of the Most High and the Messiah, the true understanding of the hell fable explained, the breakdown of world religion or the word religion, the true explanation of the Gentiles in the New Testament, which is a stumbling block to all Christians, the true understanding to the virgin birth fable, who is Japhet today? All right, G-Man, that would have been good for you. The Trinity fable, the Sabbath, understanding the holy days, the 7 heads and the 10 horns, which is the kingdoms that represent control of Esau's global dominance today. So there's no excuse. That's where you can learn about this chart here. All right. You can go into it. All right. So it's really is no excuse. All right. Everything really, because YouTube is like the modern day version of the library of Alexandria of Egypt in the ancient world. That was a massive library. OK, well, this is like a version of that, but only it's in a digital format. Everything is on YouTube. That's like your number one source of library for information on videos. Right. So if you can't and this is what I'm saying, man, you see, when you go on YouTube, you see this little corner magnifying. Y'all need to get with that. Y'all hate using this little corner magnifying glass and typing in the information that you're trying to type in. All right. And yes. OK. When you deal with Asher, that's your modern day Colombians and Uruguayans. All right. Which really goes back to let me get that real quick. Genesis 49. All right. And let me see. Let me get this up too. Before I get that, let me get this. When you deal with Asher. So Genesis 49. Genesis 49 and 20. This is end time prophecy. What will happen to the descendants of the 12 tribes in the last days? It says, out of Asher, his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Now, when you deal with the tribe of Asher, Asher means happy, all right, from the Incas, all right, and it deals with your modern day Colombians, Uruguayans, all right, yep, Peru as well, yep, but also in Brazil, all right, and they are known for their richness in foods, all right, and the tribe of Asher, they eat really good, they eat healthy, and they pride themselves on natural remedies from their minerals and resources from their actual land, all right, and when you look, like I said, there'll be your modern day Colombians, Uruguayans, but also Brazilians today. When you look up Brazil and their delicacies, we also know about their carnivals, their festivals. And Brazil in the Hebrew is barazal, which actually means iron. OK, and Brazil is known as the second largest country, which has the largest iron reserves in the world. How about that? Check that out. OK, so, yeah, that's how we're able to know who the tribes are today, because earlier today, if you had been on a live earlier, we broke down proof on how the 12 tribes will end up in the land of America. That's why this chart is giving you the breakdown who the tribes are, because the bulk of the 12 tribes will be in the Americas. However, that is not to take away from the rest of the Israelites that are scattered across the four nations, the four quarters of the world, I should say, Salakia, slip of the tongue. Because yes, we know our people are scattered, but the emphasis is in America, because that's where the greatest exodus is going to come from. And according to Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, these are the valley of the dry bones that was going to put a stick together to show you who the tribes are. So when somebody come and say that chart is false, you don't know what you're talking about, because you don't understand biblical prophecy. That's why you're saying that the chart is false, because you don't know end time prophecy and where the bulk of the 12 tribes will actually reside in the last days. Once again, you are destroyed for lack of knowledge. OK. And actually, no, you want to know what's a fake country? All right, let's get prophecy. When you have people who don't deal with prophecy, they look like idiots. Now, what was the prophecy that came out of Messiah's mouth? Let's read it. Luke chapter 21 and verse 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. Now, let me show you the ignorance of Flo the Globe, because he don't know shit. When you come over here, we're going to our source of information, historical facts. From Babylon to Timbuktu, Rudolph R. Windsor. We're going to go to page 84, and we're going to read and back up what the Messiah prophesied that was going to happen to show you the true people. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey, notice I got the precept written down there, captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Ish state with great slaughter. And during the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. And during the period from Pompey to Julius, it had been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing the Roman persecution and slavery. And the slave markets were full of black, and you see it right there. Now, why is this significant? Because when the Romans took over the land of Palestine, which they were the ones that gave it that land, the Messiah said this. Verse 22, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written must be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, right? Which, right, in those days, for there should be great distress in the land and a wrath upon his people. That's going into the 70 AD destruction. Here's the point where he doesn't understand. Verse 24, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword. That happened to our people, and they were scattered. and shall be led away captive into all nations. Now, let's go back and read it again. What did it just say? The slave markets were full of black. You see it. That's our captivity. Now, when you understand secular history, what happened when we were kicked out of the land? And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So the people, the so-called Palestinians and the so-called other people, they're not the people of the land. Matter of fact, do I have that video here on the phone? Let me show you something real quick. I do. Let's get some secular history. Let's hear it from a very trustable source.
There is absolutely no historic record of an Arab people who called themselves the Palestinians, let alone a Palestinian Arab entity whose capital city was Jerusalem. Palestine then was not a nation or even a state. It was an area of the Ottoman Empire ruled from Constantinople, also known as the province of southern Syria. Yes, it is true that the majority of Western Palestine's sparse population was ethnically Arab, many of whose ancestors originally came here with the Islamic occupation that began in the 7th century AD. But the historic fact is that the territory known as Palestine has never, since the name Palestine was first applied by the Romans, been an Arab nation or designated to be an Arab nation. In other words, historically, an Arab nation known as Palestine